Okay, y'all know the drill. Nickelodeon is not known for their original movies, but there are a few that still get brought up nowadays. One of them was Swindle, already made a video on that one. The others are generally films based on pre-existing Nick shows like Drake and Josh Go Hollywood. The channel didn't attempt many musicals when making original films, but one of the ones they did end up making is a little movie called Rags, starring True Jackson VP's Kiki Palmer and How to Rock's Max Schneider, plus some other Nick stars that we'll talk about a little later, and the Old Spice dude for some reason. The movie, which premiered in 2012, is actually really interesting because it's not only a modern adaptation of the classic Cinderella fairy tale, but it's also a gender swap version, as in the roles of the two main leads are kind of reversed. If you're familiar with the Cinderella story, you should know what that means. If you aren't, and I guess you're going to find out today, because I, Mr. Nostalgia, will be reviewing the 2012 Nickelodeon original movie, Rags.
He's a kid who's never been noticed.
I'm gonna be the next big thing.
Charlie, I don't pay you to waste your time.
You don't pay me at all.
She's a star who's never been heard.
Biggest record of your career, and you're getting distracted.
You're not listening.
But together, they might be the next big thing. Don't miss the Nickelodeon original movie, Rags.
So you in or you out?
And
Monday, May 28th at 8.
Rags premiered on Nickelodeon on May 28th, 2012. 2012 was an interesting time for the channel. Shows like The Legend of Korra started, and shows like iCarly ended. And there was one show in particular that both started and ended in the same year, and that was How to Rock, a short-lived musical comedy starring Symphonique Miller, aka Romeo's sister and Master P's daughter. Also in that show was Max Schneider, who nowadays just simply goes by Max. Not sure Max is the name I'd go for when trying to do the whole one name thing, but it clearly hasn't bothered his career because he's actually going on to be pretty successful. And then speaking of success, I mean, Kiki Palmer, y'all know who she is. Aquila to be, jump in, check out my video on it. And of course, True Jackson VP, which funny enough ended like 9 months before this movie came out. But they ain't the only Nick stars in this one though. Also in this movie is Avon Jogia, who you know as Beck from Victorious. This is like his third Nickelodeon original movie. He was in this, Spectacular, and another movie called Gym Teacher that you probably haven't heard of. Also in this movie is Drake Bell, and y'all know who that is, I'm sure. Get this movie was written by Jason, we're just gonna hope it's Fuchs, who will go on to write Ice Age 4 and Wonder Woman. Where will Rags rank in his filmography? Well, let's figure that out by getting into the movie. Act 1 begins with some aerial shots of New York City, where the story takes place. We're also greeted by some Drake Bell narration, which is funny because I watched this movie like only a couple years ago and I had no memory of it starting out like this. We find out that Charlie, who serves as the Cinderella in the story, lost his mom at a young age, which as a result left him with his nasty old stepfather and his nasty old kids. But the most important thing about Charlie, aside from the fact that he's more or less forced to work at the place his mom used to own for free, is that he has a real gift for making music. He's not the only one though. We're also introduced to Kiki Palmer's character Katie, who is one of the biggest music stars in the world right now. Yes, I'm aware that we've already been introduced to 2 songs within the first like 3 minutes. I generally wait until later to talk about the music of movies like this though, so I got you. Both of these characters are going through their own issues throughout the movie. Charlie, well, his problems are pretty self-explanatory. Probably the only good 2 things about his life right now are his co-workers, Martha and Diego, that are always down to support him. And man, the hot dog looks good. He's kind of like Peter Parker in the sense that nothing is really working out for him, but unlike Peter Parker, he doesn't have another identity he can tap into to bring some measure of joy to his life. I say some because, well, it's not like Spider-Man's life is all sunshine and rainbows either. Katie Worth, on the other hand, although has all the money and fame in the world, isn't really feeling comfortable in the position that she's in. She's grateful for the opportunity she has, of course, but she kind of wishes things were more on her terms. She's just not into the big showy displays that her label is trying to push onto her, the lyrics that she's forced to sing, or the boyfriend that she has to hang out with for publicity. Oh my goodness. I was not expecting a Buck and a Skinner jump scare in this movie, bro. There's no way. I'm genuinely struggling to move on right now, dude. This is insane. Check out my video on it, I guess, since Apparently, I can't escape it. Alright, anyway, one of the issues that Charlie is dealing with is the fact that his stepdad is putting a lot more time into making sure that his sons become the next big music stars, instead of him, who actually has, talent. He's asked to take their demo to Majesty Records, and on his way there, he has an encounter with Katie and her dog Trumpet. Look, I get it. I know what you're doing with the whole naming him after an instrument thing, but Trumpet might be the stupidest dog name of all time. Might as well name that dude Saxophone or something. Katie's song lyrics start going everywhere in the air, and good guy Charlie tries to help her pick them up. But because of the fact that this little situation has caused her to stop long enough to draw attention to herself, the paparazzi starts taking pictures of her, which makes Charlie realize who she is. But this whole interaction just makes Katie nervous, especially since the songs that Charlie is holding are very personal. So she quickly makes an escape. Charlie, on the other hand, heads inside of the building to drop off the demo, and while in there he notices that they're hiring for a janitor position, so he applies since he knows a thing or two about cleaning. After that, he heads to the music store that he frequently visits, where we find out that he makes monthly payments for his mom's old piano, which I gotta say is one of the most heartwarming things I've ever seen from a Nickelodeon or a Disney Channel movie for that matter. Unfortunately though, he's kind of broke, so it's gonna take him a while.
At this rate, your mom's piano will be yours in 2021.
Hey, at least he can afford it now. Despite being told not to touch the merchandise earlier by this Al Roker looking fellow, he starts jamming out on the piano and sings a song. A song that I promise I'll talk about later, trust. For now though, we see Charlie's back at the record label building where there's a bunch of Photoshop images in Katie's dad's room, which is kind of hilarious, not gonna lie. We got Katy Perry, Beyonce, Big Time Rush, and Justin Bieber. See, Katie's dad, or Reginald, is the head of the record company. So, as you could expect, Katie is pretty surprised to see Charlie there, especially after their run-in earlier. She confronts him about what he's doing in there, along with her friends and eventually her boyfriend, and even after explaining that he's a janitor, they still kind of kick him out. The next day while cleaning though, he stumbles upon the recording studio and starts to put on a fake performance. Fortunately for him though, Drake Bell's character, who goes by the name of Sean, happens to be sleeping in the recording studio since he works there as an engineer. It's worth pointing out though that this isn't the first time these two have interacted. By now, this is their third time speaking, and they definitely are pretty friendly with each other right now. So considering this, Sean does Charlie a solid by recording what he just laid down and later playing it back for him.
How'd you like to try that for real? Nah, you gotta be kidding. I'm just the kid with rags and mops. Dude, you are way more than just a kid with rags.
Maybe it's just because he was a pretty big part of my childhood for a while, but Drake Bell's voice is incredibly distinctive. Like, it's very unique. There's not a single person in this world that sounds like him. He's one of those guys where as soon as you hear it, you know it's him. Sean offers to help him get a demo out there since he really recognizes his talent. And I know in the universe of the movie, this song that he starts singing probably slaps, but in the real world, it's genuinely really bad. Bro fumbled. I would have never given him a contract after that. The song is Hands Up, in case you want to hear it. I can't play it because of copyright, but it sounds like an Austin and Ally song and not one of the good ones. This song does lead to a montage scene though, where we see what some of the characters are up to, especially in terms of their struggles. Things haven't really changed at home for Charlie, who is still being mistreated by his stepdad, and Katie, on the other hand, is dealing with her obnoxious fake boyfriend, who she clearly has no feelings for. But considering the positive nature of the song that's playing, it's obvious that these two, admittedly really likable characters, are both on the path to getting what they want from life.
Don't worry, we'll be back before you know it, so stick around. Let's get back to the laughs right now.
Katie and Charlie link up once again, this time at the music store.
What are you doing here? You come to some pawn shop to play a ratty old piano? What's that about?
It's my mom's.
My mom died too.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
How could you? I don't wear the My Mom Died t-shirt much these days.
Probably one of the realest interactions I've ever seen in a TV kids movie, low-key. I think I mentioned this earlier, but one of the strongest things about the movie is how likable the two main leads are. There isn't really a lot that sets them apart from other characters. The writers do kind of just play it safe, but that's not always a bad thing in movies like this. The two of them start to bond over not only just that, but their shared love for music, especially after Katie shows him some of the songs that she wrote. They take a walk and eventually start performing outside for the streets of New York. And I'm not gonna lie, this one is actually really good. It's called Look at Me Now. Might be like top 3. And clearly I'm not the only one that feels this way because the streets are enjoying this one too. Of course, a cop has to come in and ruin everything though. After giving all the money they made to a homeless man, they hop on a bus to head home back to their respective places. But like, Katie, for whatever reason, takes off her glasses and some lady recognizes her. Fun fact, this lady was in an episode of Psych, which explains why she looked familiar to me. If something good does come from this scene though, it's the fact that Katie invited Charlie to this party that her dad is throwing, a party that she'll be performing at. But of course, Charlie's stepdad yoinks the invitation from him and instead decides to use it on his two kids, who by the way are just absolutely horrible at making music. But fortunately for Charlie, Martha and Diego, like always, have his back on this one and decide to make a costume for him so he can attend the party. A costume even including a mask, which will actually come in handy, considering while he's there, he's going to have to hide from his stepdad and brothers. When he arrives at the party, this Aaron Gordon looking dude stops him from entering thanks to him, well, not having his invitation. But thanks to some quick on his feet lying, he's able to trick the guard into letting him in, and of course he immediately runs into his stepdad. Wow, good thing he was wearing a mask. Oh yeah, so I guess it's worth pointing out that Nick Cannon is in this movie, because of course he is. He was also a producer on this one though, so it does kind of add up.
Come on, come on. I got babies at home that make more noise than that. Make some noise!
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Here's something that I think is kind of dumb though. During a dance scene, Charlie swoops in and starts dancing with Katie, and Katie has no idea that it's him. And I don't know, man, especially since he isn't changing up his voice, it should be pretty easy to tell that it's him. Like, really, bruh? This should have been a Green Lantern moment or something, you know what I mean? Actually, you probably don't. Nobody really watched that movie. Anyway, the act that was originally supposed to perform cancels last minute, which means they need a new performer. At first, Charlie's stepdad used this as an opportunity to put his sons, who go by the name of Android, a combination of Andrew and Lloyd, up there in the spotlight. But after they start to get some booze, Charlie and Sean, who have once again reconnected, are able to pull some strings to get Charlie up there. And considering he's wearing a mask, it's a perfect cover-up. No one will recognize it's him, so even if he's horrible, it won't matter. He gets up on stage and Sean introduces him as Rags. He starts performing this song called Not So Different at All, and everyone is really into it, especially Katie. And I wasn't going to be a hater, but he is kind of killing this. Though I really do hate these parts in the song where he's like half rapping and half just talking.
What's up? I'm dreaming. I'm living it up. It's true. I love what I do. Yeah. No, I'm never giving it up.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks! Charlie, or Rags, tries to make a quick escape from the party but gets chased down by Katie. She asks who he is and whoa! This is my second time seeing this and I still got caught off guard. Imagine he fell down the stairs or something. Alright, so there's a bit of an issue. Charlie has to once again get home in a timely manner, especially since his evil stepdad is also on his way. He rides his bike to the restaurant, but the door is locked, so he heads to a different one.
I told you I'm married!
Martha, it's me.
Whoa, wait, hold on, what? I want to learn more about what was going on there, low-key.
Charlie! You scared me.
Oh, Charlie, you scared me. I thought you were Shamik Moore. Anyway, he tells her to keep Arthur distracted so he can get in, and man, that Kate looks good. I cannot make these videos while I'm hungry, bruh. Martha and her husband are able to distract Arthur long enough so Charlie can get into bed, all cozied up and reading a comic book. Cosmic Dan. Huh, haven't heard of him. Must be IDW. Charlie lets out a sigh of relief, thankful that he was able to pull everything off without getting caught or exposing his identity. That is, until he realizes that he dropped his CD earlier that night at the party. The next day, Katie pulls up and asks where he was, since she invited him to the party. And instead of just like telling the truth and saying his invite got stolen, which he easily could have done, he lies.
Caught a cold, stayed home, watched a movie.
Oh, really? What'd you watch?
Can't remember the name. Reese Witherspoon was in it though. Cried my eyes out.
He's talking about monsters versus aliens, y'all. Anyway, she tells him that this talented dude named Rags left his CD at the party, and she was hoping he would help with the search of his identity. She comes up with a plan where they hold a singing competition for that song, and the person whose voice matches it wins and claims their identity as Rags. So, with the help of her two best friends, they start to get things cracking on this musical mystery. Alliteration. I thought it was clever. Things take a little bit of a turn though when Katie's dad finds out about all this, and considering he had his own plans to expand the record company, he's not exactly thrilled by this. He's also not thrilled that she's been spending so much time with Charlie instead of working on her own music, which leads to this.
You're totally right. What was I thinking? Why would Katie Worth, the biggest star in the world, hang out with someone who scrubs the floor I walk on?
You know, one of the hardest things about reviewing children's movies is trying to determine when and when not to suspend disbelief, or figuring out what things I should let slide and what things I should not. I feel like from the tone of her voice, even if Charlie wasn't looking directly at her at the time, he should still be able to tell that she was being sarcastic. He heard enough of the conversation, I feel, to discern that she wasn't actually saying that for real, but because of the fact that the movie is telling me that Charlie took it the wrong way, I guess I now have to take it the wrong way. I know it's a kid's movie, and I guess this works well enough for one, but I do feel like I've seen this trope done better in other kids' media.
People are always telling me how grateful I should be. But how can I be grateful when I'm successful at something my heart's just not in?
That's a bar. I mean, granted, she's still making millions of dollars, so I don't feel that bad, but it's still a bar.
Look, Charlie is cooler than everyone in this building combined.
All right, chill. Now you're just glazing. One of the stepbrothers confronts Charlie about Rags, and as it turns out, he was able to put two and two together in a little bad weather that they're the same person, thanks to them having the same sneakers. But the other brother overhears everything and is taken back by it. Andrew, which is his name, decides that this is his way into the big league, so he goes into Charlie's room and steals his book of songs, and even shows it to his dad. Meanwhile, Charlie arrives at the Rags event and sneaks up on Katie, but he pulls a hatching Pete and accidentally says a key piece of dialogue that might just reveal his identity.
Just be you.
What?
Be you.
And in case you want me to explain the hatching Pete reference here, just have an excerpt from my video on it.
Because the magic's in the mystery. And once you know, the mystery's over. And so is the magic.
Charlie runs into Andrew and tells him that their dad is looking for him, but as it turns out, this whole thing was just a trap to lock him up in a janitor's closet. Unfortunately, kind of fitting. All of this is a part of a scheme that would introduce Andrew to the world as Rags.
And I think
that I'm in love with Irma.
Oh yeah, I didn't mention this until now, but this lady's whole personality in this movie is that she's in love with Katie's dad. You know what that means. Sing it, Carlton.
Since she's got jungle fever, he's got jungle fever, they've got jungle fever, we're in love.
Yeah, the auditions so far are not going well. A girl even tried to perform, so that doesn't really add up. Katie gets on stage hoping that if she sings the song a bit, the real Rags will stand up. And to her credit, this idea does kind of work, only for it to obviously not be Charlie. Although Katie is seeing this in front of her face, she still thinks that something is just a little bit off. Yeah, maybe it's like, I don't know, the hair perhaps? But also, and more importantly, after their little interaction from earlier, she was totally expecting to see Charlie. Katie's dog, along with her best friends, come to the rescue to let Charlie out, but it appears it's too little too late. Andrew has officially been announced as Rags. Feeling disappointed later at the after party, which is held at the restaurant he works at, Charlie tries to leave. But while Katie reintroduces Rags up onto the stage, something happened that no one, besides her I guess, was expecting.
Mr. Charlie Prince.
What? What? What?
What? Sorry, I just wanted to feel included. Katie brings Charlie up on stage and confirms the whole just be you thing is how she figured it out. She then gives the floor to Charlie so he can do his thing.
I guess moms was predicting the future. She knew that one day I was gonna move, yeah, okay.
See what I mean? This stupid little talk rap thing that he does is easily the worst part of any song that he does it in. It's horrible. This dude said, okay, like shut up. Anyway, he invites Katie on stage after his performance so she can sing one of her original songs. And man, Keke Palmer is a really good singer, bruv. Everyone starts cheering for her, and even her dad gets on stage and realizes that he's made some mistakes in how he's managed her. And he says from this point on, he's going to grant her the creative freedom that she's been wanting. On top of that though, the movie does wrap up pretty well. We actually find out that the restaurant was never actually left for Charlie's stepdad. Instead, it was left for Charlie, and they've been lying this whole time. See, Lloyd was always the nicer of the twins, and he and Charlie have even shared some positive moments with each other lately. So because of that, he decided to come clean about everything, meaning Charlie, in a way, gets his fairy tale ending. In more ways than one. The movie ends with Charlie and Katie performing Put Your Heart in It, with their friends and family watching. Turns out this dude is actually still going by Rags, which is kind of lame, but I guess you gotta justify the name of the movie somehow. I suppose you could say there's two morals in this movie. Charlie had nothing, yet still stayed persistent in trying to achieve his goals, despite his bad situation at home. Staying a positive and nice person throughout his adversity led him to just being an overall well-liked person, and because of that, he was able to make connections with the right people, thus giving him the career that he's always wanted. Katie, on the other hand, well, despite seemingly having it all, the one thing she didn't have was her own identity. So yeah, focus on yourself and always make sure that you don't sell out or anything. Be you and be true, and no, that was not a pun. I don't know, I reviewed a bunch of these kids movies before, and it's kind of hard to come up with something new to end every video. I'm gonna just let Drake Bell handle this one.
So maybe life can be like a fairy tale after all. Do you have a dream? Do you believe?
You know what I just realized? They never acknowledged the whole Charlie's mom's piano thing again. And you'd think they would have, because Charlie probably got enough bread to cover it now, since he owns the restaurant and he's a singer. I'm unironically disappointed there wasn't a scene where he goes back to the store to buy it or something. That actually would have been a really sweet way to end the story. I mean, everything we just saw was cool too, but man, wasted opportunity. I'm actually surprised the writers didn't tie that one up. Massive L.
Keep it here. We'll be back before you know it. Let's get back to more Nick.
By no means does Rags do anything different to set it apart from other movies of its kind. Matter of fact, it's literally an adaptation of Cinderella in a way. But that doesn't mean it's bad. I'd even say it's pretty decent. Considering the severe lack of competition, I'd say it's probably the best Nickelodeon original movie that's not based on a show. I had to specify that one because, well, Drake and Josh Go Hollywood reign supreme. I've said this before and I'll say it again, I'm a pretty easy duck to please when it comes to kids movies, believe it or not. If it has an interesting plot and characters worth rooting for, I'll at least be entertained, and that definitely applies to this movie here. Katie and Charlie are both pretty average characters in terms of how they're written, but there is something charming about both of them that makes them easy to root for. They both had issues that I was interested in seeing get resolved. And in the case of both of them, but especially Charlie, I'm satisfied with how their characters were wrapped up, aside from the whole piano thing, I guess. The other characters, again, written like average kids movie characters, but they were still fine. I did really like Sean and the couple that helped out Charlie. They were great additions to the movie and honestly were the MVPs. The music in the movie sounds like your average kids film soundtrack. There are some that are pretty decent, like Love You, Hate You. That's just about the only one I'd listen to willingly again though. The rest are pretty mid, with a couple of them being really bad in my opinion, like Hands Up, and honestly, y'all gon' hate me, but I hate the I Follow My Dream song. Like, shut up. Nothing gets better than this. Sounds like something I'd hear in like a dog food commercial or something, not gonna lie. None of this is on the two singers of the movie though. They are both very talented at what they do. Overall, the story is just fine. Like I said, there's nothing about it that stands out. It's filled with almost every cliche in the book and is pretty predictable, but that's typically how movies like this go. It's a harmless film that any kid could watch now and probably be entertained by, but I do think there are just objectively better kids TV movies out there, like Lemonade Mouth. Check out my video on it. Actually, speaking of Disney movies, this movie released a few weeks before Let It Shine, which is funny because there are some elements that both movies share, especially the whole hidden identity thing. The Let It Shine does have a significantly better soundtrack. Guardian Angel, bruh? Come on, man. Now that's a banger. Rags is a decent movie though, man. Nothing special, but it can be pretty fun sometimes. I'll give it like a 6.8 out of 10, something like that. I know some of y'all love this movie though, so let me know in the comments some of your favorite parts. Also, let me know your favorite song from the soundtrack. If you want to see some of my content earlier than everyone else, feel free to join my Patreon if you want. And if you like the video, feel free to like and subscribe if you're new. As always, I'm Mr. Nostalgia, and I'm out for now. Peace.